Let us continue with the story. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. So the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. So hatch is an opening in the deck of the ship. So suddenly that front opening, was thrown open and Mary appeared over there. We are sinking, she screamed. The decks are smashed, we are full of water. So she informed her father that they are sinking, all the decks, they are full of what they have been totally smashed. Smashed means they have totally broken into pieces, and the whole ship is full of water. Take the wheel, I shouted as I scrambled for the hatch. So quickly he said, you take hold of the wheel. And he shouted loudly as he scrambled. Scrambled means as he struggled to get hold of the hatch, that is, go closer to the opening of the deck of the ship. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. Both Larry and Herb, they were trying to pump out the water just like mad people. Broken timbers hung at crazy angles. So the ship had broken from various places. Those planks of wood, that is the timbers, they were broken and they were hanging everywhere at very strange angles. The whole starboard side bulged inwards. Now the starboard is the right hand side of the ship. So the right hand side of the ship, that is the timber making the right side of the ship, it was bulging, that is, it was in the poking out in the inner direction. Clothes, crockery, charts, tins and toys sloshed about in deep water, and everywhere they could just see clothes and broken pieces of crockery, charts, tins, toys. Sloshed means they were just spilling all over in the deep water. I half swam, half crawled into the children's cabin. Are you all right? I asked. So the whole place was full of water, so he tried to swim through that water. Half he tried to crawl because his feet were touching the bottom of the ship. He was crawling, and finally he reached the children's cabin and he asked, are you all right? Yes, they answered from an upper bunk. They said yes, and they answered from the upper bunk. Now, bunks are these narrow beds which are made just like the shelves against the wall. So, from an upper bunk, they answered. But my head hurts a bit, said Sue, pointing to a big bump above her eyes. So here Sue says that my head is hurting me a little. So she pointed to a big bump. Bump means the part above her eyes was a little swollen. It was in the form of a rounded structure. That is the bump. I had no time to worry about bumped heads, so probably her head had struck against something hard, and from that portion there was a swelling. So, but right at this moment, he could not wait to worry about the heads which had bumps. He had to work hard in order to save their lives. After finding a hammer, screws and canvas, I struggled back on deck. So he hunted furiously for a hammer, the screws and a canvas, and then he made his way back to the deck of the ship. With the starboard side bashed open. Now the starboard, as I told you before, that is the right hand side of the ship, it had bashed open. Bashed also means it had been struck very hard with something and it had broken up. It was open. We were taking water with each wave that broke over us. Now because the right hand side of the ship was broken, so every time the wave of the water came, that water, it broke over them, it entered the ship. If I couldn't make some repairs, we would surely sink. And if he knew that if he did not stop he did not repair the starboard, all the water would be inside the ship and they would definitely sink, and he had to avoid this. Somehow I managed to stretch canvas and secure waterproof hatch covers across the gaping holes. Gaping means wide open. So somehow he had got the canvas, he spread out that canvas and secured the waterproof hatch. There was a waterproof hatch, that is the opening of the deck of the ship. It was waterproof, so he could stretch out that canvas and the waterproof hatch covers that is the covers of that opening of the deck, across the big holes in the starboard. Some water continued to stream below, but most of it was now being deflected over the side. So he was successful in doing this. So most of the water, it did not it was deflected means its direction was changed. It turned aside over the side and it was not entering the ship anymore. More problems arose when our hand pump started to block up with the debris floating around the cabins and the electric pump short circuited. Now new problems arose even after he managed to repair the starboard. The new problem was that the hand pumps, they were getting blocked. They could not pump out the water from the ship with the hand pumps because they got blocked with the debris. Now debris is the scattered remains of something that had broken, and here in the ship nearly everything had broken. The crockery had broken, all the things, they were lying scattered all around. So the hand pumps were becoming blocked with them, which were around the cabins, and then the electric pump got short circuited. It stopped working. The water level rose threateningly. The level of the water inside the ship, it rose at a very threatening level. Back on deck, I found that our 2 spare hand pumps had been wrenched overboard. So anyhow, he reached on the deck, and on reaching the deck, he found that they had 2 spare hand pumps, and those the spare hand pumps, they had been wrenched overboard. They had fallen overboard along with the forestay sail. So they had fallen over the ship into the water along with their forestay sail. Forestay is that the stay extending forwards and down from the foremost mast to the deck. So that sail had also fallen into the water below. The jib. Now the jib is the triangular head sail set. The dinghies. Now dinghies are the small open boats, and the main anchor. So all these had fallen overboard. Then I remembered we had another electric pump under the chart room floor. Then suddenly he remembered that they have another electric pump, which one electric pump had short circuited. It was not working. The other hand pumps, they had become blocked with the debris. So he remembered they have an extra electric pump under the floor of the chart room. I connected it to an out pipe and was thankful to find that it worked. So he found that electric pump and he connected that electric pump to a pipe which was leading out of the ship, and he was really happy that when he realized that it was working. The night dragged on with an endless, bitterly cold routine of pumping, steering and working the radio. So they continued throughout the night. It literally dragged on. It seemed to be endless, very, very extremely cold. And what they were following, that routine of pumping out the water from the ship, steering it, that is directing the course of the ship, and working the radio. And they were trying to get the radio to work so that they can pass on the message back for safety, to get some help. We were getting no replies to our mayday calls. Now mayday calls are the distress calls. This is the international radio signal word which is used by the aircraft or the ships when they are in distress. So there were no replies to their distress calls, which was not surprising in this remote corner of the world. And they realized it was not very strange because they were in a very far off remote corner of the world. It was not something very strange. Sue's head had swollen alarmingly. She had 2 enormous black eyes. And now when he looked at Sue, he realized that her head had swollen up at an immense rate. It was huge, and the eyes had turned black from the sides and below. And now she showed us a deep cut on her arm, and then she showed them that she had a very deep cut on her arm as well. When I asked why she hadn't made more of her injuries before this, she replied, I didn't want to worry you when you were trying to save us all. So he asked her that why didn't you tell me about all your injuries initially? So she replied that I didn't want to worry you with my injuries when I know you are trying your best to save the life of all of us. By morning on January 3rd, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. So on the morning of 3rd of January, the pumps had the water level in control. The water pumps were working and the level of the water inside the ship was in control, and so they could take rest of 2 hours, one after the other, in rotation. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the waterline, and on checking, I found that nearly all the boats' main rib frames were smashed down to the keel. So then he realized a big work was in hand when he realized that the main rib frames, they had been smashed down. They had been totally smashed, means broken into pieces, to the keel. Keel is the main structural member of a ship. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. And then he realized that nothing was holding on to a big section of the starboard, that is the right hand side of the ship, except a few cupboard partitions. Some partitions of the cupboard were there which were holding it together. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit, but Wave Walker wouldn't hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. Now, he was sure, he understood it very well, that the ship Wave Walker had withstood the strong wave for 15 hours, but now it's not going to survive any long. It would break into pieces, and they did not have the time to reach Australia safely. I checked our charts and calculated that there were 2 small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. Then he checked his maps and the charts and calculated that there were 2 small islands a few hundred kilometers to the eastern direction where they were. One of them, Ile Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. So he found that one of them was a French scientific base. So the only hope in this vast ocean was to reach the pinpricks, these small islands in this huge ocean. But unless the wind and the seas abated, so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. And he realized until and unless the wind and the seas abated, that is, the wind and the waves of the sea, they reduced in their furious way in which they were blowing, they would not be able to set up. Hoist means to raise the sail, and their chances were slim indeed, means their chances were very less of being able to set sail. The great wave have put our auxiliary engine out of action. So the wave which had hit them had put their auxiliary, that is the second engine which is used to help the main engine, was out of action. It was also not working anymore. On January 4th, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. So on the morning of 4th of January, after having continuously pumping out the water from the ship, that is for 36 hours, they reached a last few centimeters of water. That is, they had taken out all the water, only few centimeters were left in the ship. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. So most of the water they had managed to remove from the ship. Now they had to just keep in movement with the speed of the water that was freshly coming into the ship to pump it out. We could not sell any sail on the main mast. So now they could not set up any sail on the main mast. Mast is the huge the rod, or you can say the stick on which the sails are placed. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the storm jib and headed for where I thought the 2 islands were. So the pressure on the rigging, that is, now rigging is the system of the ropes which are used to hold the mast and the sails of the ship. So he realized that the pressure of the wind on these ropes was too much, and it could pull the broken part, the damaged part of the hull. Hull is the main body of the ship, into two pieces. So what they did is they hoisted. Hoisted means to raise. They raised up the storm jib. They carried up the jib which was used during the storm. Now, I said before also, jib is the triangular head sail set and headed in the direction where he thought that the two islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. So Mary managed to find some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and all of them ate their first meal in about 2 days. But a respite was short-lived. Respite means a little satisfaction or a little freedom, that period of relief, you can say. It was very short-lived because at 4 p.m. black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour, the wind was back to 40 knots and the sea was getting higher. So at 4 p.m., there were dark, black, water-laden clouds just behind them, and within an hour, the wind was back. It was blowing at the speed of 40 knots, and the seas were getting higher. The water was filling up the seas. The weather continued to deteriorate. Deteriorate means to go down. The condition became worse and worse throughout the night, and by dawn means early morning on January 5th, our situation was again desperate. Their condition was again very bad on the morning of 5th of January. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, "Daddy, are we going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it. "But Daddy," he went on, "we aren't afraid of dying if we can all be together. You and Mummy, Sue and I." So he went in to comfort the children. That time John asked him, "Daddy, are we going to die?" So he tried to comfort him and assure him that it's going to be fine. But then John, he reassured the father and said, "We are not afraid to die if all of us, all 5 of us, can be together. 4 of us can be together. That is you, Mummy, Sue and I." I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin determined to fight the sea with everything I had. So he did not know how to respond to what the child had said. But he went out from there, and this time he made up his mind that he would do everything and fight the sea in order to save all of them. To protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves. So he decided that the starboard side was very weak. He had covered it with the canvas, but it was not very strong. So he decided that he is going to heave up. That is, heave up means to raise the undamaged part of the port hull, which in order to face the oncoming waves which were coming with great force. Using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and 2 22-liter plastic barrels of paraffin. And for this he decided that he is going to use a sea anchor that he has improvised, which he had prepared with he had just set up without any making great preparations, and it was a sea anchor made up of a heavy nylon rope and 2 22-liter plastic barrels. Now barrels are large cylindrical containers which contained paraffin. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt the end was very near. So that evening, his wife, Mary, and he sat together. They were holding hands as every moment the ship was moving, it got in more and more water inside the ship, which was entering through the broken planks. And both of them realized that the end was very near. But Wave Walker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. But the ship Wave Walker, it managed to scrape through the storm, and on the morning of January 6th, the wind it eased down a little, the speed reduced a little, and he tried to get a reading on the sextant. Now, sextant is a navigational instrument in order to determine the latitude and longitude of the observer. Back in the chart room, I worked on the wind speeds. So he went back to the chart room. There he started to work on the speed of the wind. Thank you. The last part will be there in the next video. Thank you.